What technique do you use to not lose your temper with your wife?
Oh.
When you know she's wrong and refuses to budge?
Well, this question is actually moot because my wife is never wrong. So number one, losing your temper. Losing your temper is weak. It's actually weak. It's actually weak to lose your temper. It actually is a loss of control when you lose your temper, and losing control is also weak. So we don't want to lose our temper. That's one of our goals. So again, just like prioritize and execute, what do you do when you start feeling yourself losing your temper? Stop, take a step back, detach from it, breathe. And then you got to think about the long-term victory. And we've talked about this before. Proving that you're right to your wife is not necessarily the best goal to have. Mm-hmm. What you want to do is you want to win the war. Not that one battle. The one battle doesn't even matter. Mm-hmm. I mean, what is this stupid argument about anyways? It's not about something that matters. It isn't. I can almost guarantee it's not about something that matters. It's about some random thing that doesn't matter in the big picture at all. So why are you getting upset about it? Why are you losing control? Why are you losing your temper? You can't do that. You can't do that. So when you feel like you're coming up against this is Sun Tzu, you're going against a heavily defended position, don't attack the heavily defended position. If your wife is not admitting that she's wrong and she's refusing to budge, what are you doing when you're attacking her? You're actually attacking a heavily defended position. Sun Tzu told you not to do that 2,500 years ago, and it holds true to this day. So what are you going to do when they're not budging? You're going to flank them. You're going to move around to the outside and come in from another angle that they weren't expecting. Maybe that other angle looks like flowers. Maybe the other angle looks like dinner. Maybe it just looks like changing the subject to something that they can be more flexible mentally on. Mm-hmm. Because if you go against that hardened position, I can almost guarantee you they're not gonna budge on it. And what you're gonna do to try and get them to budge is you're gonna escalate yourself. Oh, you're not budging, I'm gonna hit it harder. Oh, you're still not budging, I'm gonna go even harder. You're still not budging, I'm gonna go even harder. That whole time, every time you're going harder, they're digging the defenses in deeper, deeper, deeper.
Yep. And they're remembering how mean you were or whatever, especially if you're in a lost temper situation.
Oh yeah, now you're taking serious detriment to your long-term war.
Yeah.
Because you've given them ammunition. You've given them ammunition for future use.
Bad move.
It's a bad move. So again, who's right and who's wrong is just not important. It's so hard to get through people's head. Who's right and who's wrong on some little tactical battle of today that really has no bearing on anything in the world. Mm-hmm. This is not something to be concerned about.
Yep.
So it might be your own ego that wants to be right. Have we thought about that factor? Have we thought about that you, as a man, as a husband, you want to be right too? So guess who the person that isn't budge? Guess who the person that isn't budging is? It's you. It's you. Now, you might be quote unquote right, but it doesn't matter. You're the person that won't budge. Now, neither one of you will budge. Neither one of you will budge. We're not in a good situation. We're just in an escalating war of destruction. And we don't want that because we want to win the long-term strategic war. That's what we're looking at. Yep. Just the long-term strategic war. The little stuff in between, we're just not concerned about.
Yeah. Yeah, fully. And the whole not budging thing, too, like that hurts. And I used to think about this early on in my relationship where we'd get in little arguments or whatever, varying levels. And sometimes she would
Can even come up with an example of something you'd argue about? Because as I was trying to think, as I was sitting here, as I was answering this question, I was trying to think of a good I can't even think of a good example because they're all so stupid.
Yeah. So yeah, a good example. No.
Yeah, it's hard.
Not really. But so she would be like, "Oh, I just don't want to talk about it anymore." But meanwhile, I'm still salty. Like, hey, we didn't resolve this.
You know, there's certain code words that
like a safe word
that girls, that women, that guys have it too. But in particular, I've noticed it with some of my friends' wives. And one of my wives, she'll say, "It doesn't matter."
What do you mean buzzword? Like a code word, like a safe word?
It's a red flag. So I'll give you an example.
Okay, gotcha.
It'll just be a giant red flag that she's angry. She doesn't. Nothing I say is going to matter anymore. Yeah. She's not going to change her mind, and she's just going to go forward. And she'll be like, "Oh, it doesn't matter." I'm like, "Oh, okay. Warning."
Yeah.
Big H is angry. Right. That's what it means. Yeah. So when I hear her say it doesn't matter, I just realize, okay, now I just hit it in a heavily defended position, and I'm going to stop attacking it. Mm-hmm. I'm going to flank. I'm going to talk about something else. I'm coming in from the side hatch. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, man, I wish I would have known that a long time ago. I think that when...
Wait, what did you just say that your wife said to you? Because you just said a code word. I mean,
I don't want to talk about it.
There you go. That's another one. Yeah. I don't want to talk about this. That's a red flag.
Well, in my mind, it was like, yay, let's talk about it. I would try to do it in a conducive way, like, like a problem solving kind of way. Yeah. But she just didn't feel the same way about the whole situation. No, she handles it different. And, ultimately, I still feel like if two people are willing to talk it out kind of without too much emotion, I think that's an effective way to do it. But nonetheless, what this would cause is, and this is going back to people not budging. So what that would cause is all this time that would go on that we're not on good terms, because I want to talk about it. She doesn't want to talk about it. She just wants to, I don't know, go to bed, Yeah. Meanwhile, I am with the philosophy of don't go to bed in an argument or whatever, But meanwhile, we're at odds, even just a little bit. Even if we don't talk about it, she forgets about it. I'm still at odds. I'm not budging with my philosophy, So at the end of the day, when you look back at all the minutes, all the hours, all the days that you spent with each other, and now you have that sum of moments that you're at odds. You look at your relationship, you're like, man, this relationship isn't that good because you spent that much time at odds with each other.
Yeah.
Just because you didn't want to budge.
You didn't budge.
Yes.
So you got to budge.
You got to budge.
One of my buddies, I was hanging around with him and his wife, and her little buzzword where I was like, oh, I picked up on it pretty quickly. She would say, "That's fine." And I was like, and at first, first couple times I was like, "Oh, it's fine with her," and then I realized that does not mean that's fine.
I think that's kind of a common knowledge one though. With girls, like you can look that up. Like
doesn't matter. That's fine.
It's fine. Whatever.
Well, whatever's offensive though.
Oh yeah, and
like what they know ambiguous. If they say whatever, then that means that's fighting words. Because if you'll notice, that's fine and it doesn't matter.
Right.
They are all. Like sort of passive, a way of saying like, oh, let's just move on.
Yeah,
I don't want to talk about it. That one's a borderline.
Yeah, or it's like one of the I don't know. I don't know if there's a word.
So what's good is when you detach from these situations, you start to pick up on these things that your significant other, and also there's when you're in a relationship, you're in a team building or a team environment, or you're in a business, you start to realize that guys or people you work with will have the same thing.
Yep.
Well, they'll say, you know what, it's your call. Okay, I know it's my call, but I'm not trying to impose this plan on you. Let's figure it out. No, it's your call. Well, go ahead.
Yeah.
So that means you clearly don't agree with it. Of course, you can't say this to them because they're already dug in on the fact that you're, that you're wrong.
Yep.
So those are the little red flags you got to look out for in the world.
Yeah. So and that's even fine. Back and that's fine. And even that's a complex thing because when someone says, "Fine," or "What's wrong? What's wrong? Nothing." Right? Even though or you have reason to believe that it's not fine, especially the fine or that's fine. You have good reason to believe that it's not fine, right? So in your mind, it's logical to think, hey, you shouldn't say you're fine when you're not fine. you actively chose to say you're fine when you're not fine factually. So it's easy to come to that logical conclusion.
Yeah.
But
Well, there's your problem.
right,
Logical
but I'm just
conclusions.
I know it's not that simple. It's not that black and white. So, and I'm saying this because I kind of, up until really recently, I thought that, hey, look, I'm not really wrong with this thing. I asked you a very specific question. If you're saying you're fine, it's like it doesn't even matter what you say. I have to read like your mind or your body language and like everything, and disregard your words. And only under these circumstances, not when I say, hey, do you need, I don't know, milk from the store? You say no. I know you mean yeah. It doesn't work like that. It's only under this circumstance. So it's like, I'm thinking, hey man, that's not very good. That's a bad thing and habit to get in. So if you're not fine, you should say you're not fine. That's my logic, is what I'm saying. But here's the thing: when you're in a relationship with someone, and I understand it starts at the beginning where you're trying to figure all this stuff out. That's what the beginning of the relationship is for. But after a while, you start to know. Okay, I know that tone. Mm-hmm. I know when you say fine, it's not fine.
What the thing that's jacked up is when people don't realize that.
What that means something else.
That's a code word that means something else.
Right.
And what it's signifying is you are coming up against a heavily defended area. I'm not changing my mind, but I'm not going to sit here and argue about it. So you know what? Doesn't matter is what my wife would say.
Yeah.
Oh, it doesn't matter.
Bro, man.
It matters.
When Sarah would say, I don't want to argue about this, it's fine, let's not talk about it, that would enrage me further. Not like I'm not a lose temper kind of whatever, but
it would frustrate you.
It would make me be like, no, we have to go to, it's like, if you have like fucking like a like a splinter, like if you have a splinter in your hand or something, not talking about it is like, I just leave it, let the skin grow over it, and you'll be fine. And the thing is, you probably will be fine, but you still got that splinter in there. Me, I'm like, okay, let's talk about it. Let's open it up and get the splinter out. But she's like, no, That's how I
can't
felt
always
about
recommend ripping that splinter out.
Yeah, I know.
Because sometimes you're going up against a hardened defensive area, and that's what we're talking about here. That's what the question is. The question is, how do you not lose your temper with your wife when you know she's wrong and she refused to budge? You know how you don't do it. You know how you maintain your temper. You realize that you're in a strategic situation where you're just gonna win strategically. Yeah. You're gonna outsmart. You're gonna outmaneuver. You're gonna outmanipulate. I'm sorry. You're gonna manipulate the situation. Yeah. That's what you're gonna do. And you're going to make her think, you know what, man, I was kind of a jerk last night to my wonderful husband.
Yeah.
That's what we want to have.
Yeah, you got to do it in this genuine way.
Of course you got to be genuine.
Come off real genuine and open and warm. No one wants to attack you when you're in that state, So that's what you do.
You need to meet my wife.
No, bro, I'm telling you. Maybe if you switch all of a sudden. And she's like, hey, this is the trick. But if you put it on,
yes,
you're
just disarming them.
Right, yes, exactly. You disarm them. But man, it's hard to do when you lose your temper.
I answered a question the other day. I was at an event, and I answered a question. I was like, listen, do not take marriage advice from me. Because the question, it's a long story, but the question was about, how do you do your job when you have all this pressure, and how do you maintain your family? And I kind of went through the story of like, hey, my family came second. Mm-hmm. And that's really hard for people to understand. And I went through the whole thing, and I got to the end and I said, listen, don't take marriage advice from me. And everyone kind of laughed, but in a situation like this, actually take marriage advice from me.
Right. Yeah.
Don't attack defended positions. I've said that 47 times right now.
Yeah. And it's not to say that you've never attacked defended position. I don't know if you ever have it with your wife, but I'm just saying that sounds like good objective advice.
Yeah, I probably haven't done that in so long. It's like when we got asked on the podcast. We got asked this on the podcast. When is the last time that you were dug in on a position, and how did you admit that you were wrong? And I was like, oh, man, I haven't been dug in on a position in years. I don't even remember.
Yeah.
So it's the same thing here. When do I attack my wife in a defended position, something that she's super crazy and passionate about? I'm not going near that thing.
Yeah. Yeah, the losing your temper thing too, man. I'd learned, and I mentioned this before, where I'd learned about just getting mad in general from this book called Mind Games. It was a teeny tiny little book. One chapter was not even one page.
That can be your first review on the podcast. You can be the reviewer. We can do mind games.
Some of them were like puzzles, to see how your mind works. Anyway, what it did was indicate that...
Was there Plinko involved on these puzzles?
No, bro, that's Price is Right. Anyway, what it indicated was that losing your temper or having anger management issues it was a result of low self-esteem.
Oh yeah.
So
you're like, I don't have low self-esteem.
Exactly right, and that's how I always felt when in like elementary school, intermediate school, when they talk about self-esteem or whatever, and low self-esteem, high self-esteem. I'd be like, man, that's so embarrassing to have low self-esteem. It was like almost like a pride thing, where I would, even if I really felt like doing something or whatever, if it indicated overtly that I had a low self-esteem, if I did, I wouldn't do it. It was like really...
Maybe, do you think that paranoia was caused by a low self-esteem?
In a way, it probably goes. So it's like that's the old switcheroo there.
Yeah.
But so now I took that like times two, where it said, look, everyone gets angry. It's a natural part of life. But if you have anger management issues, it is most likely from low self-esteem. So I took that as, if I ever get angry, that's low self-esteem. So man, that would be on my mind every single time, where anytime I felt myself getting mad, I'd be like, nope, I don't have low self-esteem. So what that did though is train me never to lose my temper.
That's
even if I felt like it at
back,
first.
bro.
Yeah, I think I was always laid back, but anyway, I think that's kind of the thing to check though, where if you're losing your temper all the time, it's like, man, what's up with you losing your temper?
Don't lose your temper. That's for sure.
Hey, that splinter analogy I gave?
Oh, man.
Bro, I'm telling you. Okay, so this one time, and it wasn't me, it was Jade. He had a splinter. We were young. He had a splinter in his hand. We were like young, like 5.
Mm-hmm.
I know this because we're living in this specific house that I remember.
You
Anyway.
don't need to tell us about the house.
Anyway, he had a splinter and it was deep. So my mom was like, hey, we got to get it out. We got to, use a tweezers or something. He's like, no. And he'd put up this full on, like a hardened defense.
Mm-hmm.
We're not getting that splinter out because he's crying, he's scared, all this stuff. So what my mom did was, all right, don't take out the splinter. What she did was wait for him to go to sleep. She knew you just take out the splinter. Mm-hmm. It may or may not hurt for like a second, but it's out. Who cares? Mm-hmm. Waited for him to go sleep. Like a little nap. She goes in there gently and just takes it out. Boom. Problem solved. Splinter out.
So basically, Mama Charles
flanked him.
She flanked him.
Totally flanked him, man. Good job, Mom.
Props to Mama Charles.